It's just mainly about people getting back involved in agriculture. We need to have 25% of our population of the world involved in agriculture, making a career from it. That's the only way, in my opinion, we're going to take back the system, is have the people take back the food control.
Our food system has a lot of momentum, and the economics associated with it are tremendous. We're talking production, distribution, centralization. We're talking a lot of mouths, and the overwhelming majority are dependent on the production of food far away from their homes to meet one of their most basic needs. And for all the complexity that is involved in how we eat every day, there's one thing that's pretty clear. The food system that we're dependent on is dependent on oil, and everyone knows it. And the era of cheap, easily accessible oil is over. When people really start thinking in a medium and long-term time frame, they start relating to the soil that they have in their backyards in different ways, inspired ways, and creative ways. If we're going to make a shift away from wastefulness and dependency, it may start with a new vision of our lawns.
So the plan here, although we do have a great magic lawn that isn't lawn, that's something else, the plan is to transform it so that we can have a garden that we use.
Like, we thought about planting just all corn and then having a neighborhood corn roast to kind of just break the ice with front yard farming. Yeah. Right? Just
with the neighbors,
with the
maybe
neighbors,
offer some suggestions.
You know, the neighbors, you hear some people complain about gardens in the front yard because they don't look.
Yeah. Do they complain about the magic lawn?
Not to our faces.
Not to our faces.
You always end up eating more vegetables when you have vegetables that you've grown.
I think they just taste better.
They just taste better, yeah. What does it feel like for you to be able to walk outside and pick something from your garden to eat?
It just feels right. It feels like how it should be. It's also kind of like a just grateful thing, like kind of proud. It's like your family connecting with plants. Going to the farmer's market and things like the seed swap, I think a lot of people want to grow stuff nowadays, and it's just a matter of learning how.
Whether we're aware of it or not, there are people all over the world dedicated to making growing spaces that sustain them nutritionally and mentally. Right now in your city, there are forces of localization at work. An amazing place that embodies the localization, food-producing movement is the seed exchange we had here in Kelowna in March.
Well, you have to change the lawns, right? Yeah. But lawns are good, right? Because lawns have been sequestering carbon and fixing nitrogen for all those, decades in people's lawns, and now it's time to rip them out and plant a garden, right? But the lawns have been doing their job and serving their purpose as well. It keeps it covered, it keeps the soil structure intact, it keeps the microorganisms happening, fixing different nutrients and communicating in the soil, and when you rip up your lawn, you have a really healthy, dark smoothness that if you have a lawn, then you have everything you need to start a garden.
Prior to the development of the lawn as largely ornamental, it was used as a functional gated area to feed livestock such as rabbits, sheep, cows, and horses. The shift from it being useful space to one that symbolized wealth and distinction developed along with the rising percentage of the population moving from a rural way of life to a more urban one. The 50s saw a new lifestyle emerge.
Where I see this going is that as food gets more expensive on the store shelves, like at Safeway and Save On and what have you, is that it's going to get more expensive with the oil. But urban food produced in a way like this, that's low carbon intensive, like I told you, we produced 13,000 pounds of food on $137 worth of gasoline last year. I mean, if gas goes to $10 a liter, it's not even really going to affect the economics of my business. It'll still be economical for me to run my rototiller. And it's not about this and what I'm doing becoming huge. It's about more people becoming engaged in agriculture and deciding to take their livelihoods into their own hands.
So these raised beds have been really successful, like all through, starting now through till November. Pretty well we will get all of our lettuce and kale and spinach, and we had broccoli. And our garlic's just coming up now. You get a lot more than you think from something this size. We can't keep up with what we plant here for our family. So we got a dehydrator to try and, so that we can save some of the stuff.
This one was full of kale.
This was kale. We just could be picking kale.
We had broccoli and we ate all the broccoli. That didn't get away from us.
The broccoli was fantastic. You compost as you go and then you replenish your soil that way. But if I, think about why people aren't doing this more, I would say for myself, it's a bit of you just have to start doing it. It's one of those things that you just have to do and then you're not shy of doing it. Because if you don't know anything about gardening, you kind of think, how do you do that? But then once you do it, it's like astounding how easy it is. I think for things to change, the prices for food need to reflect better the environmental costs in producing that food, and among other things, right? So I think when things get more expensive, people might change. But I also think that it's not just about the food. Like I think if people think of it as a family activity or something that you do that's not just about getting cheap food, but it's about something that you do together and something that you do on your own land and your own property, in your backyard. So I think it will change as people kind of realize the benefits, and the benefits aren't just the food.
So what we do here on Green City Acres is we grow vegetables for the market, basically. We're just a farm, but we're a little different than your typical farm in the sense that we're growing on plots of land, like you see, that we don't own, and they're often front and backyards from homeowners. So that's essentially what we do in a nutshell, but we sell to the farmers market, the restaurants, and we run a community-supported agriculture box program. So this is one of 7 sites here, and we started with this site, and I had people just offering land to us as people heard about our farm. I just naturally expanded. And the incentive for them is that, I've got this lawn, that what's this doing for me? It's I mow it, I water it, I have to weed it. It's a liability, really. And to have somebody come in there, look after your property, do all the work necessary, you provide the water, but you'll get a free basket of produce every week for a whole entire growing season. I mean, who wouldn't want that, opposed to schlepping this lawnmower around, They do. They guzzle up the gas. I mean, everything about a lawn is, totally nonsensical.
Radishes and peas and spinach and arugula and mustard, turnips, beets. That's the time of year for that, eh? You can plant any of that stuff in the ground right now direct.
wasn't really contributing anything to where I wanted the world to go. You know, there's all these things happening in the world, all these wars, genetically modified crops, all these things that I can't control, and I wanted to live by my values. So I originally wanted to buy land in a rural context, but that was pretty hard to do in the sense that it's so expensive in BC to buy land. So a friend of mine turned me on to this thing called spin farming, and he said that, you know, guys are making $50,000 on a half acre of land and doing it in the city on land in backyards. And I didn't believe him, but I looked into it and I found that people were doing it, and that's kind of where the idea came from, is that I want to do this in Kelowna, my hometown. There's nothing like this happening here, and people here are dying for something progressive and some alternative to what is currently offered. And so that's essentially where the idea came from. I think the potential really lies in the fact that oil is going to get more expensive. In the simple way that globalization can only work if gas is really cheap, but localization is the only thing that can work if it isn't cheap. So the potential is enormous, and I think it all has to stem from food. There's no reason you can't have a garden even 10 months of the year that's producing here. It's not much work, man. Once you set it up and have things planted, just weekly management of a few hours here and there is all that's really needed. And of course, the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? So that has a lot to do with it. But to do it commercially, that's a whole other thing. So this is my full-time job, right? Farming these plots, and but to grow a plot like that, if that was your whole backyard garden, I don't think it would take much more than 4 or 5 hours a week of work a week.
To mass produce the food in Mexico and ship it here, and for some reason, I mean, it's not fair market value, but it's.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, a big motivator, what got me going was our daughter. Like, and I think that's a big thing. Like, if you have kids, like, I wanted her to know where her food was coming from, and she started her own little garden, but she likes flowers more, so she plants more flowers. But that was a big motivator.
Well,
was to get her involved.
And then
in
you
the
actually
gardening.
do know the whole history of the food, so instead of taking someone's word for it.
And we have friends, I would say, for the people that we know that have some gardens and stuff. A lot of them have kids, and I think that's a big part of it.